New tonight, still no trial date for 13 Omaha gang members arrested a few months ago. Thanks for joining us on First Alert 6 at 10 streaming. I'm Brian Mastry. Today, the suspects asked for more time to examine evidence collected against them. They're facing multiple charges: racketeering, murder, firearm charges, among many others. First Alert 6's Andrew Pfeiffer spoke today with the Omaha Police Department about how these arrests have been impacting the safety in our neighborhoods. He's live with the results in the studio. Andrew?
That's right, Brian. Prosecutors say that this group carried out shootings in both Omaha and Lincoln to protect gang territory. What's even more alarming is that many of these victims had zero gang ties. I spoke with Omaha police this afternoon, who tell me these arrests have already left an impact. Following the arrest of 13 Crip gang members back in November, Omaha police said crime numbers would take a dive.
But the quality of these arrests by these detectives and the members themselves, it's going to have a significant impact on crime.
5 months later, First Alert 6 Investigates followed up with Captain Kara Heineman to see if the predicted numbers dive was in fact happening.
So, for example, we're at 2 homicides this year. Both of those are not going to be gang related. Versus last year, we were at 8 this time of year. That's over a 75% decrease.
While it's still early in the year, according to Heineman, non-fatal shootings are also down, taking a 63% drop.
And we take pride in that, and we will continue to go after these individuals.
In the investigation, all 13 members arrested had identified themselves with the same Crips gang in Omaha.
The 13 currently going through federal courts right now were part of a series of shootings in March of 2024.
One of the alleged shootings detectives connected to the gang included the one outside the Los Diablos Motorcycle Club, killing 37-year-old Alexander Whitcomb. Police also alleged this gang was responsible for a shooting in downtown Lincoln, where 24-year-old Savion Hopkins died at the hospital.
Over and over with these crimes, especially shootings and homicides, we have a tendency to see the same suspects, the same groups committing these crimes.
Lincoln police arrested 23-year-old Kavion Wright and 30-year-old Gregory Bahati. They were 2 of the 13 members in custody awaiting federal trial. Investigators say with these members behind bars,
that in turn has been definitely a positive factor as to why the crime rates are much lower here in our city.
OPD says they were able to arrest these suspects thanks to citizens contacting the Omaha Crime Stoppers tip line. The next court date for the 13 suspects is in late May. Reporting live in the studio, Andrew Pfeiffer, First Alert 6.